Okay, and we're here with Shai Roy, who's running for the Santa Monica College Board of Trustees. Shai, good to see you.
To see you too.
And why don't you start by just telling us a little bit about your campaign and why you're running for re-election this year?
Sure. So what I've focused on over the last 4 years has been, especially with the pandemic, has really been healthcare related. And I think that, that's where my expertise has really been a value added, and I'm proud of that. And so putting the pandemic aside, and it's been an honor to be on the board, helping and supporting our administration, leading our college through the pandemic, where I think our college put the health and safety of our students, faculty, and staff first. And that's not the case nationwide. And so I was really proud of that. And so, let's beyond talking about the pandemic, I was really proud that I was just on campus yesterday. 51% of our campus is back on campus, and it was like this bustling campus for the first time in 3 years, and it was really cool. It was invigorating, and so that was really cool. And so two other things. One is when I first got on the board, we put together, with the support of our board and administration, a healthcare curriculum committee. And through that committee and that process, we've started at least one program, a CNA program, that will help meet some of the regional shortages in that job profession. And so that came out of that committee that we started when I first got on the board, and I'm really proud of it. And then the second thing, and this may be one of the most proud things I've done in my public life, is we took the Santa Monica College Foundation, the Black Collegians, and the Adelante counseling programs in our college, and brought together LA County Medical Association and started a mentoring symposium targeting our students of color who want to go into healthcare fields. And so we've done this 2 years in a row now. It's been all by Zoom. And initially we thought about this pre-pandemic, wanted to bring it to speakers who were live, but became a Zoom thing. It's been this really rewarding experience, not just for the students. I think we've had consistent 20-30 students who've shown up for these monthly talks, but it's really cool to see a lot of our physicians and other healthcare workers of color who've come and talk about their stories. It's really rewarding for them. And so these are the these are the kind of coalition building and connectivity type programs that is what I look for with all of the different things that I try to do. And so just was really proud of that. And so I'll mention that. With that, I'm really enthusiastic about running for re-election here. The college is emerging from the pandemic. Our fiscal situation is a little bit better than it was 2 years ago because of some of the state funding. And so it's even with the decline in enrollment because of the immigration policies of Trump, plus the pandemic, we're at a little bit more stable footing than 2 years ago. And so, I'm optimistic about what the coming years come, because hopefully enrollment will pick up now, as we emerge from the pandemic, and then also with the Democrats being in office.
Cool, thanks. So let me follow up on some of what you were talking about there. So with regard to the pandemic, or as SMC is transitioning back to more in-person instruction, what are the biggest lessons that were learned from COVID-19 that will lead to long-term changes at SMC, more than just during this transition period, but for years? And
that's a great question. So I think one of those things, and I've tried to mention this in every meeting where we talk about this, is we may not want to just go back to the traditional in-person classroom setting for everybody. I do think that for some students that not just in the classroom, but clubs and things like that, some people like a hybrid or a Zoom format better, accessibility. There may be social reasons for that as well. And so just to keep that in mind as we go forward, not just in the classroom, but for clubs, I think that's a big thing, because I think that there was an accessibility to some people who did extracurricular activities and maybe in groups and things like that in that way, that maybe for in-person, they may not they may not come. And so so taking that as a lesson from the pandemic. And then secondarily, I think for all of us, as a society, following the data, and data is hard, particularly on large things like this. But I was proud that, it was somewhat controversial. We took away our vaccine mandate for students, faculty, and staff for this upcoming semester. And it's because the data shows that hospitalizations are way down, and we saw that from survey data that it was a barrier to some students getting access to education. And so it didn't make sense for us to enforce this with the data, knowing that if the data worsens or changes, that we can reinstitute it. But that I think it's really important from a public trust standpoint to really reflect the data and not just be sort of and be deliberate about it, and not just be reflexive in what we think or want correctly.
Thanks. Patricia.
Yes. Hi, Shai. Yes or no, do you still have the nursing program at Santa Monica College?
We do.
It's been years since I've been in the field, but it was really the best nursing program or local program around. And I love your healthcare pathway curriculum and bringing people together who want to go into the field. And I know that people who are nurses or physical therapists or even floor clerks in hospitals often go back to school and get the next degree in a medical career. And I think it's great that you're doing that. Now, what I want you to do is do a similar thing with teaching. It's really time to create a pathway where kids are really reinforcing the desire to graduate from school and be able to walk into a job. And teaching is desperately in need of that. So I'm just lobbying you to create another pathway. Thank you.
Absolutely. There's so many different career. I mean, I think that that's what we need to do, is match our students and expose them to these various fields that society needs. I think that for too long, people have been sort of, I think for good reason, but funneled to a traditional four-year education, and I do think that there's certainly value in that. But I think that really, particularly since school isn't free, 4 years institutions aren't free, and really making sure that students get value from what they, from the training that they get, and then using data and surveys and regional relationships to make sure that they get training and then they get matched to positions that help their communities. So, whether it's teaching, healthcare, technology, and I'm sure I'm leaving out many other things, but I think that's important. I do want, while I have you here, I misspoke something, Patricia, at SMER. It was about the bond not having housing. So what I was talking about, and I was correct, we were talking about this yesterday as trustees because there was some confusion among us, actually. There was a grant that was looking into housing, and there is in the bond general language saying it can be used for housing. Now, the bond there's no earmarks for specific, there's not a lot of earmarks for very specific things in the bond out of deliberately. So I kind of misspoke there. And so I just wanted to correct that because we were talking about it yesterday.
Yeah, not to worry, because Tom clarified it for us.
Okay.
Melissa.
That actually segues really well into my question, because I was actually going to ask you about housing. I was just wanted to hear a little bit more about, obviously you said in your questionnaire that you supported construction of housing on campus, particularly for unhoused students, which is great. And I just wanted to hear a little bit more about how practically you will do that if you continue on the board to make that actually happen. And I understand like the bond is one aspect of it, but as you just said, it's not entirely earmarked for that. There's a lot of, even if you get the money, there's implementation questions. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about sort of how you'd use your power to make that reality.
Sure. And I try not to toot my own horn, but I've been a proponent for this for, 6 years since I first ran for this. And so I did push hard for including this in our, getting that grant, including this in this bond. So it is something that I really personally feel strongly about. And so, and I hope that it can potentially address housing insecurity, not just for students, but faculty and staff who face housing insecurity. And so looking at different models and ways to do that, I think on our Bundy campus, which is technically in West LA, which is not actually in Santa Monica, I think there's space there. And so where I think that we're looking to potentially build out using this bond, potentially partially this bond money, but will likely require further funding in the future. So I think that that's one of those things. The other thing is, our college has, explored public-private partnerships, looking at affordable housing in Santa Monica. We've discussed with Community Corps, we've discussed with our foundation, and I do think there's been, a lot of questions about, things like liability and, the college's role in housing students. I think that the conversation has changed a lot over the last 5 to 6 years, where I think that the greater college community absolutely recognizes the problem and our role in solving that problem. And so I think we've made a lot of progress, and I wouldn't have said this 4 years ago when I ran. I do think this decade that we will have tangible housing on SMC's campus, and hopefully, further partnerships that lead to, maybe further housing and in other spots as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Hey, Shai.
Hey, Dan.
Are you supportive of efforts across the state to make community college free for students? And if so, what tangible actions have you taken, are you taking, will you take in the upcoming term, should you be elected?
Absolutely. I absolutely support it, to get a second free year for community college for California students. It's something that when I was running for the assembly that I believe strongly in, and I expressed very clearly. And our college believes that, my fellow trustees, our administration, it's something that we believe strongly in and lobby for. Now, what I will say is, and I learned this during my assembly campaign, is that the community college system does not have strong proponents in Sacramento. There's a faculty association that is, relative to other large unions, and the power is smaller. And so there's not a lot of people in Sacramento who are lobbying and speaking up for community college students. And so, I do see that as my role as an elected official public servant to speak up for our system and be somebody who speaks up for our students. Mike Fong just got elected to assembly, who was an LACC community college trustee, and I know that's something I think that will be very helpful. And but we just need more folks up in Sacramento who fight for that piece of the pie. I mean, it's all a piece of the pie of the California budget, and we just need more people fighting for community college students. Hey, Dolly.
Hi there. Hi. I'm sorry I'm late.
No worries.
That's okay.
But I know you.
Totally. I was reminiscing before we started recording about how we used to do this on Saturdays and Sundays at Jay's house, and we'd get there at 10 and leave at like 6, and we'd have that big spread in the back. And
yeah.
Okay, Melissa, you got another one?
Sure, though I'm happy to yield if other people who haven't asked yet I have another question, Shai. You mentioned in your questionnaire the desire and goal to do further work to strengthen the dual enrollment curriculum offered to SMMUSD students. So I just wanted to hear a little bit more about your thoughts on that and what you would strengthen, ways you would strengthen it.
So I think just expanding the courses that are offered, I think that would be the main way to strengthen it. Expand courses that are offered, and not just in Santa Monica, but in Malibu as well. We're going to start a new campus in Malibu, and I think that will help in that community, or this community where I live now, as well. And then I was really proud that we helped the school district with the flooding at John Muir, that we were able to house students and allow them to take classes on our campus. But the biggest thing that I feel strongly about, further than the dual enrollment, is this is a problem, and I feel like I speak into just sort of a funnel counseling. I think there's a severe lack of counselors both at the high school level and at the college level. And so I wish that, and so we offer one counselor who helps with high school students at Samo High who are going to come to SMC. I wish we could strengthen that program where we could target students at the local high schools who decide early in their high school careers that they're going to go to community college, so that they don't check out and they show up unprepared, because that happens a lot and the data reflects that. And so, it's something that I've always talked about. I have made no progress on this, I think, but I wish that we could decrease the amount, the ratio of counselor to student. And then also, if we did that, we would be able to increase ties so that our counselors at SMC could help the high school students in the school district.
Got it. Thanks for that. And just one quick follow-up. That would just require budgeting at both the
it's a budget and staff thing. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and it's not unique to us, unfortunately. It's across the state, both in the school districts and the community colleges.
Got it. Thanks for that.
Anyone else? Oh, so Patricia, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, it was just a quick follow-up about the campus being built in Malibu. Is that a candidate for the Board of Education yesterday was saying that that Malibu would be contributing about 150. My numbers are probably very wrong. I don't remember exactly what they were, but she said that Malibu would be contributing $155 million to the new bond issue that you're going out for, but would only receive the benefit of about $50 million. I don't know whether that's accurate. You probably don't know off the tip of your head, but it's something that you should look into to be able to answer if other people ask you that question.
Totally, it's been an ongoing issue. That the claim is that 1/3 of the bond comes from Malibu based on the property taxes. I assume that that's true. I haven't heard that it's not. And so there is, the reality is there's not money earmarked for specific projects that is written into the bond. And that's been a point of controversy in Malibu. Not just in Malibu, I mean, different constituency groups want specific things earmarked in. And so the reality is almost nothing is written in stone. And so the project that will likely be next in Malibu that the college is very enthusiastic about is a theater on the campus of Malibu High. And so the constituents in Malibu want basically all of that money, that theater, to be built out of this bond money. And whether that's, it's just like the housing question. It's all possible, but there is a reality of how all of this bond money is used. And I think that the college is pretty deliberate about not promising where it's going to be used, but there is certainly enthusiasm about building that theater.
And the Unified has always had that same issue on bonds, which is why they did 2 different bond packages in the last measure. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much. I appreciate you stopping by. Good to hear from you as always.
All right. Thanks, guys. Good to see you guys.